Radio.
Everybody, how's it going? RealTuners Radio, episode 25. Heck, I'll just let my barking dog in the background kind of bring you guys in tonight. What's going on? So, it is another Wednesday night. It's PRI season. Half of our guys are at PRI, but the other half are here. Let's see. What is the date? It's December 6th, 2017. First day we got any snow in Omaha, Nebraska area. Kind of cool. Let's see. I don't have my class schedule up yet because it's not finalized. Such a pain to have to set that stuff up. It's a lot of work. But we do have webinars. www.realtuners.com. Go check out what we have to offer there. We've obviously got our free podcasts. We got some affordable webinars for some specific standalone EFI tuning stuff. All kinds of neat stuff. You can make donations to the radio show if you want to, and you can keep up on our class schedule, our in-person classes. Here, look in the next week or two. Should have some southern dates coming up for January. Oh, let's see. Who do I have on mute but I have here tonight? I got Mr. Scott Evans. I got Bill Fowler. I got Little John from Little John's Motorsports. Rye Klemp is here. I'm going to let him probably start talking here in a little bit, but I'll unmute those guys now. So anyhow, welcome, everyone. Mr. Klemp, how's it going, dude? Oh, I had him on mute. Sorry. Say it again, brother.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Better. All right. Welcome. Another, that's winter now. It's a winter evening thing. We started this, it was heat of summer.
Is it officially winter, though? Like, when does winter officially start?
I don't know, but for me, it's when there's enough snow on the
21st,
sidewalk.
23rd.
I gotta brush it off.
22nd.
The second I have to scrape my windows.
You know, one of these smart asses can tell me the winter solstice happens on. Yeah, anyway, whatever. Yeah.
It's not technically.
It was winter
like
here because it was cold.
Time. Yeah. Well, I don't envy you out there. We're getting a little bit of rain out here on the East Coast, but I haven't had to deal with any snow yet.
Right on.
So maybe I'll go to the track this weekend.
So,
I'm like 60 and sunny all week.
are you in Vegas right now again? I thought you were on the road.
I am.
Oh.
No, I'm in Vegas.
Mr. Evans. That's kind of
We're
quiet.
at 65 and on fire.
Oh, yeah. So I saw a picture of the 405 today. I didn't realize how bad the fires actually were out there, Bill. That's not far from you guys.
Yeah, for us, it's still where I live and where our shop is. That's still 25 miles north. See the smoke, and they actually had the 405 shut down for about 8-9 hours.
Wow.
You know what that does to this part of the world.
The Orange Crush. That's the craziest section of highway in the
So it
whole
was
planet.
normal out in LA today then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it was
Chicago
full
traffic.
of smoke, and the cars weren't moving. Yes.
Ugh. Well, it sucks to hear. I hope everybody's doing all right. I saw Chad Reynolds they're working on fundraiser stuff. Bang Shift Chad, check that out. So we have a visitor this evening. We have a guest. We convinced, or he helped convince us, Mr. Neil Richards from Horsepower Solutions in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, He is on board with us tonight, and actually he's waiting in the green room right now. But these are the guys that were involved with the what I believe the general consensus is the newest stock bottom end LS record. And so we're going to talk to him a little bit about that here in a few minutes. But I don't know, Rye, you got anything you talk about this week? Anything new that happened? Some pro stock, something or other.
Obviously, PRI is going on, so everybody's kind of sitting, waiting to see what kind of badass products we're going to see come out of there. I'm super stoked on that. I know half our panels out there checking everything out. If not, they're on their way there. So stay tuned to the interwebs to see what comes out from there.
Delgado pushed out on us tonight. I'm on a plane. I'm like, get on the go internet, cheap ass. I don't got my
No,
headphones.
it's not good enough to talk. It's probably good enough
No,
to
I know.
listen, but not really. to
It
talk
is.
usually.
Bill actually listened to it once on Facebook from GoGo, and he said it worked. That was funny. But
It did. Well,
yeah, that's hilarious. Rye, take it away, man. Or not. That's great. We probably lost him, huh? Or did I lose everybody?
No, we're all still here.
Okay.
yeah, we're here.
Good. I don't know what happened to Rye. But so Rye was going to talk about the pro stock rule change that, as I understand it, it's a pretty simple deal. It just basically there were some cars that are out there that were going to age out. I think one of the ones I work on.
Yeah.
And so that their body style, older body style, is going to be allowed. Any cars that teched this year that were okay for pro stock are good to go for next year. So that's kind of cool for some of the guys. That saves some of the smaller teams some money. But then also, doesn't it allow for different engine combination mix and
engine
matches?
combo.
Yeah.
As long as it matches their spec of you know, minimums, maximums, different things.
And it has to meet their
Go.
approval. Basically, it's anything you ran this year.
Yeah.
Yep, which basically means that everybody's switching to a Chevy motor.
Right.
Yeah, but now we're going to see a variety of bodies out there. So you're going to see
Right.
Ford, Chevy, and Dodge all going toe to toe. Because I mean, let's be real here. That anything under the hood of those things resembles nothing of what you're going to come off the showroom floor.
Right.
So difference does it really make? It's basically you're just copying the architecture. So
Yeah, to
and
me personally,
the
it was no
bodies will
big
go
deal.
to what they personally prefer. It'll be like, oh, we're Mustang fans, so they're going to run a Mustang body. Oh, we're old Hemi fans, so we're going to run a Dodge body. And that's what it's going to end up. It's going to be, this is what we really like the looks of. This is what we support as our classic cars, and now we can run them again.
yeah, I think deep down everybody we all want to like pro stock. Like we want to see pro stock do good again, and kind of the way the heyday it was. I've always liked it because it's, they're shifting their own gears. It's the tightest, margin of victories almost out of all the classes. And it really is kind of a driver's game. There's a lot of science that goes into it, black art more so than I think the other classes, which are just,
and they tend to be the
together.
class that gets down the track almost every time.
Yeah. And they're a little bit more consistent, and it's almost to the point where it's bracket racing when you're watching it. But I hope that this helps kind of shake things up, and they get to stick around to get a bigger field and start to see some personality come out of there.
Huh.
I wish them all the best of luck.
Yeah, and these bigger changes than that, I think. It's, I mean, I heard some neat
The
rumors.
solution is out there.
Yeah.
Copos
Yeah.
versus drag packs versus Cobra Jets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back to the Future.
Right. No, that's cars you can relate to. You know what I mean? And don't the Street Outlaw, well, I said the No Prep and all those cars and the Radial Tire, all those cars look like cars and people like them. I could definitely see the fans at the Ducks race love what they're getting. You know what I mean? And not necessarily the car guy fans either,
Yep.
Yeah.
People like
And-
real car bodies, and that's what it's going to take. But pro stock will probably never go that way.
Yeah.
I think eventually pro mod is going to rise up and
It already is.
their airtime.
Dude, more people are watching Pro Mod. I mean, and they're and for whatever reason, they're a little bit longer wheelbase, but at least a Pro Mod is crazy fast.
But, I mean, when I say like take over their airtime, I mean like take over their spot, because when you watch like eliminations, you see pro stock, top fuel, funny car, and then pro stock bike. Those are the four classes that are always shown on Fox. But I think eventually that pro stock will fall off, and I think maybe pro mod will kind of sneak up on them and take over that spot, especially with what like you talk about the Street Outlaws kind of stuff is making that class kind of cool again.
Yeah, and people who watch it on TV don't understand that there's 12 other classes of things that race all day long. It's not just those couple things that they show. They have to do a little creative editing to make it so it fits in an allotted time slot. There's so much good other racing from the smaller guys.
Oh yeah, it's a challenge for sure. It's
as long as it doesn't involve a throttle stop, I'm okay with it.
Right. Let's move on to happier.
Thank you for saying that. Oh
Yes.
man.
Yeah, so Bill didn't have to. I'm not sure what Bill's drinking tonight, but so let's talk to Neil. Welcome aboard. Can you hear us, man?
I can hear just you, Scott.
Oh, okay. Hold on just a second. I'll set it up so you can hear the rest of them here. Oh, that's right. I can see that. Okay. Now you can hear everybody else. Okay. Carry on. So, Neil, good to have you, man. You were involved with that truck. And what is it, an X-Pro stock truck? Are we right about that?
Yeah, it's an old X-Pro stock truck that one of my good friends and customers has had for a few years now.
Okay. So they just had that on hand, and you guys thought, hey, we're going to go ahead and plumb this thing for a Turbo LS combo and go for the record.
Honestly, we had built him a couple of different combos over the years. The truck's had a conventional big block Chevrolet in it with a Pro Charger F3 121 deal. And this past year, we put a new one together, and there was some parts that weren't quite what they were supposed to be, and we ended up hurting it on probably the, 6th or 7th pass or something. So it was down, getting repaired, and a bunch of us kind of just got together and decided, well, what the hell, let's go smash this record and see what we can do.
It ended up doing really good. What were all your incrementals on that pass? And give us the details. That happened at Streetcar Supernats, right? Here a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, it did. Scott, I can still only hear you.
Oh, no, they're just not talking.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Hey, Ryan, give me a sound check, man. Can you hear him okay?
Hey, can you hear me, man? What's up?
Yeah, you bet. There we go.
There you go. So you're all
yeah, keep your stick on the ice.
Yeah, we'll try. So we ended up, we just started sneaking up on it. I told the guys before we went down there, I said, we're not going to show our full hand, right out of the trailer. We're going to sneak up on it. And it was a huge group effort. A whole bunch of us got together, and we all kind of just cobbled all our parts together. And we decided, we'd do a couple of 8 mile shakedowns. And honestly, we made a total of 6 passes, maybe even less, maybe only 5. And we struggled the first couple passes just getting the chassis to work.
Sure.
We had the thing on Outlaw 10.5 tire, and which that's kind of the direction he's going with the truck anyway. So we decided, well, what the hell, we'll just leave it on that tire.
Yeah.
Went out, struggled to get the chassis where we want it. Those chassis are hard to make work on the best of days. Just super long, super low, weight's real far forward, really low. They're just lazy chassis, hard to get to do anything. So we kept picking away at the short numbers, trying to get it to actually do something. And so we had some help from a couple of good buddies. Jordan Lazick with Gen 3 Speed helped us out, and Jace Iverson with JS Power Sports kind of gave us a few pointers, and a couple other guys, and we kind of started picking away at it, got the short numbers happening. We broke the record for the 8th mile on, I think, it would have been the second pass that it went past 60 feet. And so once we got that, then the boys were kind of on me, like, hey, let's send this thing out the back. And I wanted to wait until I could at least get the front numbers a little better, because I didn't figure it had enough based on the 8th mile stuff. So we picked away at it a bit more, and then once we were happy with the 8th mile numbers and stuff, we put some boost in it and let it sing.
Nice.
That's that.
And it did the number. What did you guys end up running?
Yeah.
Bottom 7s?
So the first quarter mile pass, it went 7:26, and that was on, I think that was on about 36 pounds of boost.
Uh-huh.
And then the next pass, I told them, we're going to smash the record real bad now, or you're going to drive over the crank rods, bottom half of the block, heads, I don't know, some part. And so we put another, I think we put another 6 or 8 on top of the gate, which gave us another 4. So we ended up at 40.
Right.
Turned the ship point up a little bit, let it sing, and it went 7:16 at 190.
Nice. That is moving out.
Rolling.
That is rolling, 190. And also people, John was just telling me before the show that thing isn't exactly lightweight. Steel roof and quarters, right? So
that's right.
I was under the mistaken assumption it was super lightweight. He's like, no, hell no. It's within a couple hundred pounds of the last guy that was, held this record. So fair deal.
That's right. Yeah. And I wanted to bring that up. And that's part of the,
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So one of the things I did want to bring up was exactly that. All these guys get on the internet, and of course, just like anything, everybody's a hero. But
let me tell you this before. I'm just going to preface this with, good luck, dude. You're never going to be able to answer all the haters on the internet. Trust me. No,
I told them before we turned a single wrench on the thing. I said, you know that we're gonna break the record. I'm confident that we have what it takes to break the record as a team, and with the truck and with all of us working on it. But I told them, I said, we're gonna break the record, and it's just gonna instantly start all the butthurt about, you cheated this way or this, blah blah blah, which it did. And we don't care. We just did it for fun. Honestly, we all know there's no value in it per se.
Sure.
But so I knew that was going to come up, and the other thing that I knew was going to come up was weight. And everybody, it's 1,800 pounds, and it's like if it was 1,800 pounds, it sure as hell would have went faster than 190 and 716.
Right.
And second off, it's not. It was 2,600 by the time we were done. It was 2,610. With all the ballast we need to put in it to make it actually work, which, obviously that's not what we wanted to do, but in order to get the chassis happy, we just had to. So that's kind of where it went.
No, it's impressive. I mean, so it's funny. Yeah. So everybody out there needs to know that it's not actually that super light and super easy to just plop in there and go. I mean, it's going to be a lot easier to put that motor in a rail and go faster.
Right. And I'm sure it'll happen, right? I think we all kind of know that that's the direction.
I wouldn't mind being the first guy to run a 6 something, though. You guys think that truck's got it in it? With some stock parts?
Yeah, and honestly, we had talked about that and talked about, maybe going down. Like for us, our season's done. We got a foot of snow up here. But, I mean, we talked about possibly heading back down south and trying to get a 6 out of it, which I do think it's possible, especially if we did manage to get some more weight out of it. But for the rest of us, we all have our own cars and our own projects, and we all, some of our team took all their personal cars apart just to, steal parts, borrow parts, whatever. So I don't think we're going to be going for it anytime soon, but you never know, I guess, what could happen.
Yeah, I guess it's just whatever's going to happen, but it's not like it's interesting it wasn't like a life goal for you guys or anything. It was just, hey, we got parts to do this and take a shot at it. Let's do it. I mean, I've been a part of something like that at Bonneville before. We did a blown flathead record out there in the salt, and it really upset a lot of people who were purists because we did it with parts we had on hand, which was a super Billy badass flathead that's like $50,000 and it's good for 330 horsepower. But we put that in an old Nissan, like a 1991 Nissan 240, which was just blasphemy. And we used a turbocharger instead of a blower. Oh, God forbid. And we used electronic fuel injection and coil packs. And just everyone was super pissed. Of course, we smashed that record, and that car is going to be in the book for years. But I know how that is. It was something.
There's always going to be somebody. And like the other big controversy is the rod bolts. Which, I mean, James Hatfield, our one team member here, he thought it'd be pretty funny, and a couple of us kind of agreed. Capizzi's been super cool the whole time, and honestly, I think none of us were ever trying to take anything away from what he's done.
No, and he's a cool guy too. He's a friend of the show. We've had him on. Yeah,
seems like a really nice guy. The car flies. We love the stock suspension, small tire stuff. We do tons of it, and so we never try to take anything away from him. But as a little, kind of a little joke, and actually, John, you were part of this. We sent him a set of ARP rod bolts in the mail right after we broke the record, just so that he has no excuses if he wants to come and try and take it back.
That is hilarious.
So, but we all know that the rods break, in the beam. The rod bolts don't save them. They don't matter. It's, it has no bearing on anything. But, of course, all the internet heroes believe that because we did that, the record doesn't count, whatever. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to us one way or the other. We know we went down there. We had fun. We drank lots of beer. We had, had a good time and went real fast. And that's all that matters. So.
Outstanding.
I just love how all the guys think that any kind of preparation to it at all negates the fact that
Dahlquist was going off about that. He's not in here tonight, so we'll shit talk him a little bit. He's like, I'm concerned as soon as you take it apart and gap the rings, it's not stock anymore. I'm like, oh
my God.
That was funny. I love it.
Get the hell over it. And in the pool, who had less than 5 minutes before a mod motor got brought up? Because
instantly.
Listen, whoever had sub 5 minutes on the pool won. because I saw the comment scroll by that if it was a Coyote / mod motor, that it would already went 5.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're one shining hero in that world. It's hilarious.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, the truck's stock bottom end. It's a stock block, stock crank, stock rods, stock pistons, stock wrist pins, stock rings.
Yeah, I feel like the rod bolt thing is irrelevant to the strength of the bottom end on it. If you didn't spend any money replacing anything, it's a stock bottom end. Who you're having fun with dirt cheap parts.
Yeah.
That's right. And honestly, we had a thing, we brought a spare engine with us, and that spare engine is for my street car, my slow car, and we fully expected to kick the rods out of the thing and have to put the spare in it and keep trying to get the record. But, it just happened to come together well and go fast right away. But I mean, the moral, or I guess the thing that people need to take from it is, no matter how you slice it, with a cast garbage piston, a garbage rod, a cylinder head that had already been blown up, welded, fixed, not ported, stock valves that we had to go through like 20 of them to find straight ones, went 716 and 190 on 40 pounds of boost. We shipped it at 8,500. Like, no matter how you slice it, it still did that, whether the rod bolts helped or didn't or whatever.
I just imagine how butthurt like some of the internet guys would be if you had like an LS9 stock bottom end to put in the truck.
Oh, then it'd go 6s for sure, easily.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
is that the square port one?
No. Well, it could have square ports on it if you're using stock LS9 heads. I mean,
well, we wouldn't want to slow it down.
Well, exactly.
Oh my God.
And something like that, when it's leaving the line at 30 pounds of boost in an application like that, you're past the point of where it actually didn't leave on that much. It was leaving on 20, and then it was all in by 1 second. 0.6.
It had 40 in it.
Hey, what's the rest of the rundown on that? What's the transmission you got in there? Intercooler, what fuel, engine management, that kind of stuff?
So it's a lot of it, same thing, just recycled from his big motor that he normally runs. But it was on methanol, so no intercooler. It had some mild steel 3.5-inch pipe feeding it right into a borrowed throttle body and intake from another buddy, and the transmission's a Power Glide that I had built for them. I don't know, must have been last year, I think, for their big motor. PTC 9.5-inch converter that is out of our buddy James's truck, I believe. I don't know, we switched around. Oh, maybe it was actually out of Charlie's car, another buddy of ours with another stock bottom end 5.3 car. And then, it just has a 9.5-inch Mark Williams in it with, I think we put a 430 in it. We changed gears because of the 8-mile stuff, and then, and the little motor not making any power. We knew it wouldn't mile an hour. So we just put, 430 in it. Other than that, it's all basic stuff. Yeah, it's got a Holly Dominator in it that I tune. It's all pretty, readily available stuff. There's no black art, there's no custom, this or that. It's all, our buddies cobbled together a turbo kit for us really fast. It actually looked good and came out pretty well considering it was, band-aided together with junk that everybody had laying around.
Tell us more about the tuning. You're doing the tuning, right?
Yeah, you bet.
That's what our guys want to hear about.
Well, it's the same thing, and you know this better than anybody, but it's all about managing cylinder pressure.
Yeah, totally.
If the other thing that really helped that situation was Mark Campbell from Comp Cams ground us a camshaft that actually, addressed that issue, which is, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's something that you need for the average guy. Like, we run Little John's cams or, the Thule stuff or whatever in most of our stock bottom end stuff, and they go plenty fast and have no issues and don't hurt anything. But I think being that we were trying to go max effort with this deal, we just went a little bigger on the camshaft, pushed the RPM up, and it's not stuff that I would normally do in a street car, but we knew the purpose of this deal, so that's what we did.
Sure.
And other than that, yeah, it was just, you know, I'm not as much as I'm a firm believer in, you know, gentle timing and working up on the thing, I don't necessarily buy into like Matt Happel and some of those guys' 8 degrees of timing, you know, kind of.
Well, yeah, I bet you're using a timing light though. That's why their stuff gets really weird. Is because
That's
that
right.
8
That's
degrees
right.
might have a +9 on the end of it that they're not realizing. They're just leaning into it with low numbers and figuring out where it wants to be. Wow, one wanted 29 and the other one wanted 8. Well, no, they both they both want is a timing light.
Junk and where they end up, but
yeah.
But yeah, other than that, the only other thing is we use some advanced tables to manage the timing throughout the run.
Yep.
So that, you know, and the converter ended up being super tight, like for this combo until we really started to turn it up.
Right.
The thing would lose like 2,200 on the gear change.
Wow.
And it was just like,
so that's like a way wrong
like,
converter at that point. Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah,
and when it was pulling it down on the gear change, I was just telling myself, like, this is when the rods come out of it, because it yanked it down so bad that, you know, and it's pulling it right through the peak torque.
Yeah, that's
nuts. Especially if it was pulling it down with anywhere within peak torque.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if it was,
that's where it's going to kick the rods out if it's going to happen.
Oh, geez.
That's right.
So
and it was scary. Go ahead.
What's the rest of the valve train and the engine look like? What have you guys got besides just that custom comp cam?
Junk. No, I mean the valves are stock junk. But the rest is all is generally all Thule stuff. It's got our buddies Colin and Craig Richter from RPM. They supplied us with just a set of Thule 685 lift springs with a tie retainer. Set of push rods. It's got a trunnion and a factory rocker, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's got like a IWIS chain, like a single roller chain on stock gears, like stock old, you know, gears, whatever. It does have a short travel lifter in it, a used set of comp short travels that we had laying around the shop, and other than that, the rest of the valve train's all stock. Yeah, it's got a head stud and an LS9 gasket in it. And, you know, it truly is the stereotypical stock bottom end, you know, we're going to go make 1,000 horsepower kind of deal. And
but it's all
nothing
good
else
parts.
complex. I mean, like that part of it, the valve springs and all that stuff are good parts, but I mean, good parts is also a relative term when you're trying to, you know, spin 8,500 or whatever on a hydraulic roller. Right? So. You know, hey man, we both probably know that. Yeah, it probably should have had. I will say it did have good parts, but it probably should have had better parts.
Well, so, I mean, at that point, you know, the difference between good and better is just how many times it can do it. And that's the way I feel about it.
Hey, shifting gears. Sorry, I mean, there were guys asking about your car running 440s at Streetcar Supernats.
Yeah, my personal car, we got it in the 40s. We finally started to get the short numbers down.
And that's the Cream Dream?
Yeah, that's the Cream Dream. It's it's a big, heavy 275 pig, and yeah.
I mean, feel free. You got the mic, brother. Tell us all about it. I kind of want to hear it now. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a 79 Zephyr, Mercury Zephyr. It's the original Fox body, and yeah, it's got a 442-inch dart-based LS Next deal with it's got some good parts in it. It's got a Bryant crank and an aluminum rod, and it's got an All-Pro head on it, and a pair of Jose's 72 mils that we got hooked up with this year, thanks to our buddies at Boosted Lifestyle. And yeah, the car was 3,440 pounds. You know, our minimum weight was 3,400, but we couldn't keep the nose down, so we ended up adding more weight than we wanted. Somewhere right in there. And you know, I have a really awesome crew that helps me a ton. And we finally started to get the short numbers. The car is always back split really hard and mile an hour pretty good, but we can never really get a good handle on the front half of the racetrack. And now we're finally starting to. And even then, that pass I had to pedal it. The front tires didn't touch down till 3.2, and it went 448 at 162 on that one. So yeah, just a fun 275 car.
That's flying, man. That's awesome.
that's about it. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. John knows the car. John's helped out with some of the stuff before, and I've run some of his stuff in it, and
yeah, she's a beast.
Yeah, the next time you come down for the Super Nats, just let me know. I live here in Vegas now, so I'll come out and hang out.
Oh, cool.
Help you out any way I can.
Dude, let him take you to Gordon
Awesome.
Ramsay's.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, we definitely this year. Normally, we end up thrashing more than we want to, just like anybody at any big race, I guess. But this year, we only had to take the transmission out once, so that was good, and that was just mostly due to my own stupidity. But yeah, for sure, I'll have to look you up. It'd be fun. We generally try to make it every year. I mean, sometimes we can't and whatever, but it's a 26-hour haul for us, so it's pretty good distance.
Good grief, 26 hours.
What was that?
That's ridiculous. I said, good grief.
Hey, I drove 30.
Hours, that's a haul.
I drove 30 coming from Chicago to move here, so it's not too bad.
Yeah,
but you only had to do it once. Yeah, but yeah, back to the stock bottom end deal. I mean, I definitely don't want to be the guy, getting all the credit for it. There was a whole bunch of us. Everybody put in a pile of work and, working late nights. We built the whole thing in 3 weeks, like from the truck being a rolling chassis to, together running. We never tuned it, never put it on the dyno. We just put it in the trailer, hauled it 26 hours and rock and roll.
That's awesome. Now, if you have some experience tuning the stock bottom end combos, which, I mean, it seems like all of us do now, you almost can just, like I tell guys, we probably don't even need to go to a dyno. Let's just take it to the track, and we'll start off a couple degrees short of timing where I know it's going to want to be anyway.
Hello?
Get the fuel figured out, and then, boom, it's running the number. Means it's time to learn something new, I guess. So what else? Everybody's quiet tonight. Take some questions from the audience. Anybody got questions for Neil and these guys here? Take a look here. I'm watching Mixler. Bewley, you got maybe Facebook? YouTube's kind of quiet. We're new on YouTube.
Can't get Facebook to work all that great, so I'm usually on Mixler.
Said you're 1320 video famous now.
Somebody asked what displacement the motor was, and that right grabbed that question. 3 stock bore and stroke 5.3, 378 by 3622. Nissan asked what kind of RPM range and how hard.
I don't know if you can hear him there. He's asking what RPM range you're spinning it to.
You guys there? I'm cutting
I
out
don't think you can hear any
We're
of
here.
us, Scott.
I don't think you heard him all the way, but he's asking what RPMs you're spinning the motor.
Yeah, he fell off, dude.
Yeah, we got some kind of bad connection going there or something.
Sorry, how about that? Any better there?
In the
Yeah.
ice fishing hut.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
he was
was that
asking
me?
about RPM range. Sorry, go ahead. Is anybody there?
I'm here.
Yeah, so we spun it as high as about 85, 50. Never really any higher than that. It went out the back, I think, about 8,300 just because the converter was so tight.
That's moving. The limited travel lifter is a big part of that, of being able to do that.
I think the short travel really helps that situation, yeah. And I think, and John would know better than anybody on this deal, but I think having a ramp rate in the camshaft that, controls the lifter and isn't super violent probably is a big part of that.
Yeah, my guess is your guys' guy at comp went to Billy, and Billy come up with something for it that on some of the new stuff, because I've got some lists of lobes that aren't even in the catalog yet that are like some super crazy. He's doing some really interesting stuff on the opening side to control opening velocity, and that's really helping the stability. So my guess is there's a whole lot of voodoo in the lobes on the camshaft that's in that thing. And then plus you guys had the 685 springs too, and if you guys shimmed them down a little bit, you were running probably an extra 40, 50 pounds open, which you combine that with a short travel lifter, really adds a little extra, a little bit of extra pressure that really helps, in that 75 and up range with keeping it under control.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're correct on Billy being part of that deal. You know, he Mark, I'm sure, went with him, and they, you know, all kind of sat down together. But the camshaft, you know, I honestly am a firm believer, and you know, back to John on the same deal, is if you don't have the right camshaft in the thing, you're never going to do anything close to that. You know, same as Capizzi, same as us, you know, same as any of the guys that go fast with these deals.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of advances in hydraulic roller lobe design in the last little bit, last year or so. It's really been interesting to see Spintron data and some of the dyno data and then some of the data out of cars and stuff. Because like I've done some testing with Zach Brown, the guy that lives up in North Dakota, who's got the maroon RX-7, and we've done some testing on camshafts where all we did was just change the lobe design and 600 RPM of peak fuel consumption. So when you can just change the lobe design and find 500-600 RPM and extend the RPM range that far up without even changing the parts, you know, you're doing some pretty killer, you know, some pretty killer work there. Some pretty killer innovation, in my opinion.
So,
yeah, not all bump sticks are created equal.
Are you going to keep the stock bottom end in this thing? Or are you guys going to put the big block back in it after you fix it? Or are you guys going to try and push this record lower or what?
Well, I think what we're going to do is the engine's just about ready to go back together, the big engine. So he has a F3 to go back on it, but we're trying to convince him to put either a single on it or twins and go after the Outlaw 10.5 deal. He normally used to race a local class that was more bracket, kind of top sportsman type stuff, and we're all heads up guys, so we just bust his balls about it continually and try and get him into real racing, which to us is, you know, small tire, heads up.
Yeah, as well you should bust his balls on that.
Yeah. So I think that's the plan. We planned on pulling the engine out and, you know, doing a video of us tearing, like, start to finish, pulling it out of the truck, tearing it down, you know, for all the guys that are like, oh, you know, I don't care what you say, it's got rods in it, it's got pistons in it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, here's the piece of, you know, here's the bent GM rod as we take it out of the engine. Here's, you know, but I guess we'll see.
But I mean,
see what happens.
Dude, you can do that, but unless you do it like on the return road, you know what I mean? You're still going to have.
Yeah, it ain't going to matter. That's right.
Kind of call bullshit on it.
That's right. And honestly, like we said in the beginning, we don't care. And, you know, we all went down there. We had a great time with a bunch of buddies. You know, we just kind of proved if a group of 8 or 9 or 10 of us, whatever it was, put our heads together for 3 weeks, you know, what we can accomplish. And, you know, I think I would at some point like to try and push it further, because that was literally its 4th or 5th or whatever pass. I honestly think there's a whole bunch left on the table with that deal. But the big thing everybody keeps asking is, you know, oh, well, how many passes? You know, oh, well, it'll only live 2 passes. Well, maybe that's true, but he drove the thing back up the return road and then put it in the pit, and then we drove it up to the starting line later, and, you know, no rods or no pistons are hitting the counterweights. It's not making noise, not smoking. It runs good, it has good oil pressure. So, I mean, it ain't going to last probably 50 passes, but I think it probably lasts a couple more. So, and the other thing is that this thing has a stock head. I think if we put a real head on it, or even a ported stock head, you know, it's only going to make more power.
So I think a lot of people don't take the stock bottom and stuff into consideration, is the safety. What do you guys have underneath that in the event of when that thing does let go? Is there a belly pan? Is there a diaper? Like,
yeah, there was actually both. We made sure of that. More so, you know, John, the guy who owns the truck, is a good buddy of ours, and honestly, one of the best drivers I've ever got to work with. The guy really does a good job in the truck. Anything we ever tell him, you know, from when we first converted him over to EFI and the blown deal, you know, he doesn't go out there, beats the thing into the rev limiter. He, you know, does controlled burnouts. He's a really good driver. So we didn't want to wad him up and then have to put one of us numpties in there. And so we put a diaper on it, and then also a tray. And we didn't want to oil down for anybody, you know, like we're going out there trying to blow the thing up essentially. We didn't want to record. There's enough oil downs with that race. We didn't need to add to it.
The oil down nationals.
Horrible.
It happens a lot out there. That event can take forever to get run.
Oh, it's brutal. You're there for a week to make 5 passes. I mean, I love it. I love the race.
I do too. It's a fun one to go to. It's
fun
to hang out in Vegas. It's a good time. I always have a good time with my friends out there, but damn, the actual race can take forever.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know why that is, if it's the end of the year and everybody's just trying to blow their stuff up or what, but I mean,
it's always looking good. It's always kind of chilly, so the weather throws them off. It's dry air, which is something that a lot of guys miss when they come from this part of the country. That dry air burns a lot quicker than the weather.
Stands,
yeah. So I mean, that throws your tune off. I know that. We've seen that mistake made a couple times, and then otherwise, it's just I don't know. It's just the way that event goes. You know, it's East meets West, so there's a bunch of West Coast guys. Not a bunch, but what West Coast guys there are out there. You know, so it's slightly different crowd, but
what's the standard dry air?
More East Coast guys.
Sorry, go ahead, Bill. What's the dry air adjustment for timing?
Yeah,
it's going to be engine dependent, but I know certain engines very competitive that'll have a 4 degree, maybe a 5 degree range of timing just based on humidity you'll see in the lower 48 states at various NHRA races. That's kind of the common thing. I don't know how you can be a really good plug reader maybe, and you can tell that, you know, but then you're looking at individual holes and everything else. I mean, that's on a level that's different, but the instructions I have on the care and feeding of a 500-inch NHRA Pro Stocker includes like a 5 degree range of timing based on water grains.
Yeah.
And you guys have logged.
If you learn what your water grains are, you can.
Yeah. And I don't know how much that affects other engines, though. I don't think that's an across the board assumption for everybody. So those particular engines want a lot of timing anyway. So, you know, that already would translate.
It depends on the efficiency of your heads,
everything.
And the burn rate. You know, if you got some really fast burn heads, then they're gonna need a little bit different swing than something that's a little more old school and really slow to burn.
I think for our typical listener, you're just going to...
Plenty of apps out there that'll help you figure it out. And, you know, most people, you can read the plugs and see where it's at. If you see all of a sudden, it used to be perfectly centered in the strap, and now all of a sudden it's the base, well, you might want to think about taking some timing out.
So what effect does the water grain have on that? Like, is the more humidity...
It makes it burn slower. It's like water injection. It makes the burn happen slower, so you need to lead it with a little bit more timing. Well, if you don't have the water in there, conversely, it burns faster. You know, and then so lighten that timing at 20 degrees before top dead center now finishes the burn quicker. You get that peak pressure point quicker. You know, so that's the idea there. Is really what I tell people is just start off every new event with way slow timing, make a slow run, and then sneak up on it. You'll end up not.
Yeah, the nitrous guys especially.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But anyway, that's
the ashtray guys.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. They tend to do that. They tend to go, you know, and it seems common for us when guys will go from up here or, you know, even some of the East Coast guys will come over and then, you know, like you say, that race, you know, you're in the desert and, you know, it definitely changes things for nitrous guys, and you see a lot of guys blowing hood scoops off.
Yeah. So it's a neat event. Very cool. Good to have you, man. Anybody else got questions for Neil? You got a shop to plug, man? You should tell us where you're at and tell everybody how to get a hold of you if you want them to.
Yeah, probably the easiest is always Facebook, just like anything. Horsepower Solutions. Do lots of remote tuning, track tuning, and consulting, you know, that type of stuff. Yeah, we're up here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and yeah, you normally find us on Facebook, Horsepower Solutions. We do have a website. It just doesn't get updated as much as it should. So take that with a grain of salt.
Most of our people are listening on Facebook right now, so we're with you.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, other than that, if you see us at a race or you spot my car or this truck or whatever, just come say hi and yeah.
Nice. Right on.
Other than that, I just wanted to
again.
Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, so we're straight up from Montana.
Yeah, I heard that wrong. Okay, got it. I didn't hear anybody mention on that SBE record holder what fuel were you running?
What fuel?
It was methanol. It was essentially the equivalent to M1. It was actually, we got it sponsored to us by Adam Volks. It was Fuse methanol.
Okay.
And so we got to say thanks to him. He supplied the fuel. I mean, thanks to our buddy White Trash Adam supplied the turbo for us, and then the whole rest of the Team North crew for everybody just putting in all the work to make it happen.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Was that intercooled? I missed that part.
Nope.
Non-intercooled. Good for you. Right on. Okay, one for the non-intercooled team. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, on the alcohol deal, it seemed to work pretty good.
You watching your inlet air temps? You get an idea of what's going on?
I do. I don't have the log in front of me. I should have been more prepared, but yeah, we were. But I mean, it's the same thing when when you're dumping that much methanol down the thing's throat. It generally isn't a big deal on a turbo deal. The Pro Charger still gets real hot out the back.
Right.
I see Doug Cook just asked how big of an injector. It had a billet atomizer 235 in it that was pinned.
Got it.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
And it had a Enderley 110 mechanical pump on it.
Okay.
Trying to think of what else could help anybody out or any.
What oil pump did you all use? Cody Lee asking.
Dead stock GM, found it in one of our boxes somewhere, shimmed it, and went to town.
Nice.
Yeah, and what were the lobe numbers on the camshaft?
You're gonna have to call Mark Campbell with Comp Cams for that one. That's his deal.
I just thought I'd slip that in, see,
yeah,
pop out.
Yeah, that's actually, you know what? I don't even know the cam info. Even if you did ask me, I couldn't tell you. That's his deal. It showed up in a box. I do know it had the new finish on it, that micro polish type deal that Comp's doing now. So it was really pretty, and we put it in there, and it made the valves go up and down and made power. So I was happy.
Right on. It worked. That's good, man. Yeah, you got any other sponsors you want to plug? Have at it.
I was to say, for people who are curious about the water grains thing, you can go to like airdensityonline.com, and they have like a track forecast thing. So whatever track you're at, they spit out like the time, the temperature, the humidity, barometer, dew point, which dew point can be really, really important for some guys.
Yep.
And then water grains is one of the things they do, and it gives you the DA and air density things. And that's an easy place to figure out what the water grains are at the track for that time, and you can kind of keep an eye on it as it goes.
AirDensityOnline.com. I use them too. The other reason I like them is because their instrumentation is super expensive. They're using all the local NOAA weather stations.
Yep.
So it's quite a bit better than the $400 handheld device that you might have at the track. They're the same ones that the airports are working off of. Kind of cool.
Yeah,
I like that one too.
And it's surprising to look at and see the differences in temperature and humidity and what it does to the water grains, because that you may have the same temperature and humidity, but the barometric pressure changes the water grains quite a bit.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, very cool.
Do any of you guys run an M1 or M1 equivalents do anything special to avoid water absorption into the alcohol? Because that's kind of a known thing over any period of time when they're open.
I'll let you go for that one, Neil, if you want to.
My buddy runs M1 all the time, and he runs it on everything. It works great.
We run top lube on all the cars I work on, but I mean, I'm not sure that keeps it from being hygroscopic.
Run something in it.
Yeah, but it just keeps things lubricated.
Yeah, the other thing is normally they go through it so fast that you don't end up having, you don't have it sitting around normally.
Right. It's high maintenance.
And we always
go through twice as much fuel.
Yeah. But you do flush it.
Yeah,
the guys I know with success are maintaining them, and it's a lot of, it's the same kind of work as a mechanical injected blow an alcohol car. You got to flush it out every time after you're done.
It's probably even more because you need to flush the injectors out, right? And
sure.
With the billets, they get real sensitive.
Yeah.
If you don't pickle them and flush everything through them.
Right.
So I mean,
tell everybody
just make sure you do
gas
that.
tune to get it warmed up.
Yeah.
Then you need to fill it with your alcohol, run your races, and at the end of the night, you
shut it down with the gas tune.
Back in, run it for a few minutes, and let it clean everything out. And then you can put it back in the trailer with the gas in it for the next time. You don't have to do anything special. That way you're already ready to go when you got to start it up. And when it's too cold, it doesn't want to start anyway. So you need the gas to get it going when it's a colder day and it's the morning and you're just trying to get things going. You're going to need the gas anyways.
Yeah, and that's 100% true. We actually had another customer down there that just finished a new Pro Mod build. It's got a screw-blown minor Hemi in it on EFI. And so that was pretty interesting. And probably the coolest thing was watching it when it was warm, once the car had been warmed up and it was, the middle of the day, the only blown car that was sitting under the arches. He just reached up, hit the starter, and thing lit off. Doesn't need no squirt bottle, doesn't need nothing. And just, you know, the joys of EFI that we all get to enjoy. But you know, some of the other blown guys are looking at us like we have 3 heads. You know, what the hell are these guys trying to do? So,
did you run any nitro in the truck at all with that fuel, or just straight
alcohol? No, definitely not. Honestly, I don't have. One of our crew members has a fair bit of experience with nitro. He crewed on a nitro funny car for a long time. I personally don't have any nitro tuning experience. I know very little about it other than, you know, you got to hit the thing with a lot of timing, but, you know, and obviously they need a lot of fuel. But other than that, I probably would have just melted everything if I tried to run nitro in it.
Nice. Yeah, we got a buddy. John Beck is a buddy of ours that does builds nitro engines. He does the drag boats, and then he builds engines for Problem Child, which is like a 16-time national champion, something like that. And then he does the 911 Roadster for Bonneville. I get to watch those guys run those things on nitro out at Bonneville. I mean, that's some interesting stuff. Holy crap. Just totally different tuning. Tons and tons of ignition timing, tons of boost, tons of heat. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Wants pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I don't have enough experience with it. You know, I've done methanol deals and obviously lots and lots and lots of gas stuff. So I had no issue tuning this deal like this. But no, if they would have asked me to put nitro in it, I probably would have still said yes, just because I like learning and
hell yeah
stuff. But I don't think we would have had quite as good a success. We probably would have blown the heads off it a couple times. So.
Yeah, I guess it's a learning experience. But there are guys in Brazil that are running nitromethane, naturally aspirated and turbocharged, as a primary fuel on EFI. There was a fuel tech guy, and they would run, like, you know, 3 injectors per hole of the Bosch injectors or bigger, and then or 4. I think it was 4 per hole. They had inline 6s they were running this on. The Bang Shift guys featured it a couple years ago, but it was at Impala with a straight 6 naturally aspirated, but it was running on fuel tech with nitromethane through electronic injectors, and ran fast. This thing was super fast, but just kind of hilarious that those guys overseas that are already playing with that, which that'll come here eventually. Get bigger nozzles that are more reliable.
Yeah.
It'll become a more common fuel. I remember that guy, his name was Geraldo Bueno, and he told me, he's like, it's not actually as hard tuning. It just takes a lot more timing. He's like, but you figure it out just like any other fuel. And it wasn't, to him, nitromethane wasn't something super explosive or dangerous any worse than any other fuel. He's like, yeah, it's a little volatile, storage, whatever. But, he just was like, nope, it's just another fuel. It just takes a shitload more timing. He says an engine that wants 24 degrees, it will want like 60 or 70 degrees of advance on equivalent nitromethane. But it'll make big power.
Yeah, I think I'd want to be around one that was already running well and tuned properly, and
before you messed with it, yeah.
And before I dove in full-heartedly. But
same here.
Those guys,
just so I could learn.
They turn the thing backwards a little bit by hand first,
sure.
Because if they try to crank it and there's anything in there, it blows up the engine.
Yeah, it kicks back and it's not good.
Yeah, we have to do that with any of the blown stuff too. Like, any screw blown motor or whatever. If you end up flooding the thing out, or you drown it, you end up having a back part to clear it out. Otherwise, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, pop.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah, I think I missed a question from Doug from Motion, but I don't.
Inlet air temps he was asking about, and then they told him you didn't have the logs in front. You got to guess.
Yeah, I don't have the log in front of me. I'm sure they're up there. They're still not going to be as up as like
up there's 350 or 300 or 250. I mean the GM.
I'm going to say they were. Yeah, I'm going to say they were 250 probably. And I know like the Pro Charger will melt. Yeah, the Pro Charger will melt off a normal IAT sensor.
Right. So the plastic ones don't do it. Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I don't know if anybody's got any other questions, but I mean, it really is a fairly common deal. It's just a matter of managing the cylinder pressure, getting the chassis to be, finally be happy and get down. So. Right
on. That's all it takes, man.
Yeah.
A little bit of development work, a little bit of common sense. That's good. Real work. So cool. Well, thanks, Neil. It's good to have you, man. Hope to hear from you down the road. Keep us posted on whatever's going on. And you guys bust into the 6s. We'll definitely have you back.
Yeah,
motivation
we'll see
for
what
you.
we can do. The truck has run in the 6s with the big motor, but
Right.
but obviously not with the little guy. But
Gotcha. Right on.
awesome.
All right,
Let's
dude.
keep it up, guys.
We'll talk to you later. Yep.
Okay,
Thanks,
for having us.
Neil Richards. Bye-bye. Cool. That was fun. That went way better than I expected. We didn't have any hate coming at us.
Yeah, I was expecting
More smack talk than we got. Yeah.
Flame suit on. Just had one little jab there.
That's all right. I'm all right with that. I mean, everybody's got their opinions on that. It's interesting. It's just, I have an interesting vantage point there. But so what else do we want to talk about? We have a really small crew tonight. We apologize. Yeah, go ahead.
We can address some of the stuff that we were talking about offline with, if you guys want to talk about the vacuum pumps. If
that's
Scott
right.
Even still here, or is he making dinner?
I'm here.
I am still here.
Sweet.
Do you want to start off with the vacuum pump question? Don't ever step our bounds on this one. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know. I've observed a lot, but yeah, talk from experience. Go fire away.
Question was, how about some talk about crankcase pressure for the blue collar guys? This gentleman does not have a vacuum pump in the budget right now. Is considering you doing the old school pan evac system, like running your valve covers to your exhaust, turbo 351, 3-inch exhaust all the way to the rear bumper. How effective is this, and how effective is monitoring crankcase pressure to detect a knock?
Well, I know that the pan evacs work to an extent, and it's all about proper placement of where the little nipple they give you goes and the right angle. It's very, very specific that where you need to put it and the angle it needs to be in. So when you do it, follow the install instructions that come with it as close as you can. I haven't seen any real high vacuum numbers off of them. They're usually like 4 to 6 inches that you see out of them. I'm sure somebody's had more. Some people have no success at all. Getting that crankcase pressure, what you're doing is you're creating a vacuum in there, which lowers the atmospheric pressure, which basically, if you think about it like a tub of water in there, the air is simulating water more or less, and everything has to spin against that air. And the lower you get it, the easier it spins, and the easier the oil comes off and can return back to the pan as well. So it helps with windage. It helps with general motion and pumping losses.
And then ring seal.
I don't know about going all the way.
It puts suction against the rings.
Helps with.
Yeah, it's huge on the ring seal.
You're always going to get more power with pan vacuum of some sort.
Yep.
I had a calculator I was looking for that I had somewhere that actually you can do hard math and figure out by the cubic inches of the engine, the size of things, and by the amount of vacuum and
how much CFM you need to see move
down. You can actually figure out how much you really need to draw and how much power you can gain from it too. I can't find the calculator.
Testing it on the engine dyno is how I've seen it done. We've done it by testing on the engine dyno, and usually on a 750 horse naturally aspirated thing, it might be worth 15 to 30 horsepower. Typically,
but are you talking about
that's
a
pretty typical.
pump, or are you talking about the pan evac
pump? Just putting a vacuum in general on it. Okay, so
and it depends on how much vacuum you pull, and it depends on a lot of other things going on inside the engine. But in general, you're going to see something from it, and anything is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I would think with the header stuff, like he's saying, he's going to run a tailpipe all the way out the back.
I don't know how well it works going all the way out the back. I seem to remember it not working as good when you got to take it out the back because it's relying on the pulses to push things.
I can talk about that.
Exhaust causes pressure.
Yeah. No, I can talk about this. So the Engine Master stuff, I've seen this done. Well, I mean, I saw some top engine builders test out how to place the little nipple thing, whatever you want to call it, that you stick down there in the tubes. But they were using a leaf blower to blow through the pipe, and they were measuring the vacuum as they would change the angle and positioning and the cut and angle on the tube that they were sticking in there, the pitot tube, I'll call it. And they found optimum placement that way, and it worked really good. And that engine would pull 12 inches, 12 inches of vacuum on the crankcase.
Really good for those.
But there was a ton of effort into sealing up the motor. They told me half the effort was sealing up the engine itself. And it was a race Hemi.
You got to have good seals everywhere to begin with.
Yeah. But now I remember an Engine Masters Challenge less sealed up motor was pulling 9 inches of vacuum. They had me logging that. And it was a second place Engine Masters Challenge finisher, the Dan Miller, Gene Adams early Hemi from 2012. That one was pulling 9, and we knew that it was worth, I think, like 15 horsepower on a high 600 horsepower engine at the time. Naturally aspirated.
On the dyno with a turbo car making about 600 horsepower with 8 or 9 inches, you get 15 to 20 horsepower extra out of it.
Okay.
Which is, it helps. It definitely helps with sealing everything up.
I was under the impression that the ring seal,
you don't have to worry about leaks ever again until the car stops.
I was under the impression that ring seal was part of the biggest deal about that, but I could be wrong.
It is. It helps with the ring seal.
And that can you talk
that's
about
partially what it causes.
Scott, can you talk about the benefits for data logging that? Like, it's my understanding.
Okay, so
you data log that.
So if you log and you get used to what your normal crankcase pressure profile looks like in your data logs, it's kind of like coolant pressure. Everybody's will look a little bit different, but you get used to what normal is, and then you can start observing abnormal. You'll either drop some vacuum or you'll actually see more positive crankcase pressure than your normal profile. If you're unseating or fluttering the rings with detonation. Detonation causes the rings to move around a little bit, rattle, whatever, and actually lose some ring seal. And as a result, you'll get a puff of more cylinder pressure, escapes past the rings on that cylinder or cylinders, gets into the crankcase, and you'll see a little bit of tickle on the crankcase pressure.
But you'll see that on the log.
Yeah, you'll see it change.
Yeah.
You'll see that on the log before you hear anything audible or see any physical signs.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You can be just barely detonating, and you'll see it in the vacuum pump.
Yeah, and anything you're doing to upset the ring seal
I've seen
is a problem.
a few times.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a knock sensor.
It's a...
That's a joke. Just a joke.
It's definitely a detonation recognition after the fact.
What do you call it, Scott? It's a bad combustion event.
Here's what I call it. Yeah. No, it's the unstable combustion is what I like to call it. That's all there is.
Yeah.
I can tell you one other thing it'll correlate to. So we've been data logging the vacuum on my crankcase for a while with the Megasquirt stuff that Scott has helped me with. And what it will also tell you as you compare over time is what's going on with your ring seal. So, for guys that are rebuilding the motor every week, well, it doesn't matter. But for people like me that are cheap that, try and stretch, a rebuild or a build for a couple of seasons, you begin to see if everything else has stayed the same and you're religious about your sealing up of the motor, as somebody else mentioned, you'll begin to see a gradual degradation.
Yep. It's starting to leak out somewhere.
Exactly when it's time to rebuild.
Yeah. Yep. Either that or if you got a crank seal that's wearing out or something, you'll see that happening too, but it'll lose vacuum during the run.
And when you use a vacuum pump, you want to be...
Go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. All I was going to say is it'll correlate to your leak down testing.
Yeah.
So, that's how you know it's
tells you it's time to do your leak down
the seal or not someplace else. Yep.
Yeah.
And for people who want to run a vacuum pump or a pan vac, you want to find out what it's doing, because there is a point where it is too much for your engine. You can actually pull too hard on the rings and seize it up. So you got to have the engine kind of built for that reason if you want to really draw a lot of vacuum.
Speak to your engine builder about what you want to do. Yep.
I've seen guys who are drawing 15 inches of vacuum, but their engine was built to handle that. 10 to 12 is kind of the standard kind of limit that everybody sticks to. If you got stock rings and nothing special done to them, it's bone stock motor other than you threw in a cam and you're trying to get a little bit of extra sealing going up, then you can use it. Just make sure you're keeping it to like 4 or 6 inches of vacuum, because your rings will not like it if you try to draw 12 on a stock gap motor. You can take and now I just lost my thought. You could take and you can add a pressure release valve. They're pretty common. They, typically they're either a 7/8 fitting or a 12 AN, and you can use that to let a relief so that you can keep the engine from drawing too much vacuum. And they're typically better if you can do it on the output side of the engine, not the input side. Like, you don't want to put it in the crankcase for the air to draw through the crankcase and go out, because it'll pick up mist and it'll draw oil out of the vacuum pump. Whereas if you put it on the outlet side, already coming out of the engine, it'll draw fresh air into it and it won't pick up any extra oil from the engine to suck it out. So you don't have to worry about your catch can filling up as much.
I'm a big fan of the Star Machine product on that. I'm assuming you guys have seen some of that. Rear Morrison resells them. A number of people resell those. But that's exactly, it mounts on the outside of the valve cover, headed into whatever your vacuum pump device is. And that's also nice, it's easy to adjust.
Yep, a lot of guys do just put it on one valve cover and then they suck through the other valve cover, and that's where you run into sucking oil out because you're creating wind that's going through the engine. Whereas if it's on the outside, you're only creating vacuum inside the engine that's can only draw air through little cracks everywhere.
So you can run too much vacuum on that and actually cause an oiling issue because of the differential pressure. Correct. So basically, oil away from something, and then metal on metal happens.
Well, you have to also size your inlet to your oil pump, because when you start pulling, 15 inches of vacuum,
it's a lot.
Now the pump is actually having to work against that. So there's a whole set of sizing issues. So mine, for example, we've stuck with kind of that standard targeting of 12, although we pushed it up a little more occasionally. It didn't seem to hurt anything. But I'm running an external oil pump with 2 stages of evacuation. It's an older design from Peterson. And so we run our 1-inch inlet to the sump to go into the inlet side of the oil pump to make up for that differential. Just to give you an idea. So that's with 2 -12s, one on each valve cover, using the vacuum brake to manage it to 12 peak. And it takes a 1-inch inlet line to the pump in order to offset that.
So it's moving a lot of air. Yep.
Yeah.
What's the, so if you're running a vacuum pump, what's the best placement to draw from? Valve cover, valley pan, crate case?
Wherever you can draw that doesn't suck oil out of the engines, which usually means anywhere as long as you have a baffle. I like to do it in the valley, but a lot of valleys are wet, and so you have to guard against it with some kind of baffling to keep it from sucking the oil out. Especially if you put it towards the front of the engine. Like an LS has a big splash window up there, and it's just going to suck all that oil right up through it.
I learned that one the hard way. I had to put 2 baffles on my valley tray to keep it from pulling a half a cord on every pull.
Yeah, I really prefer the valve covers, actually. And again, you do have to have the baffling for kind of a cheap and easy way that seems to work pretty well. Moroso has this nice little, you can buy them in -10 or -12, and it's on the inside, it's got a bunch of little holes in a hex head that then tightens up against the flat metal of the valve cover, and so you create. And then on the other end is a male -12 or -10 with a nut, so it's easy to tighten up. It's an easy to install thing. You don't even have to weld, and that works pretty well.
It usually, as long as you're smart about placement, so you don't hit your rocker. Some guys' rockers get a little tight. Just remember that when you're thinking about where you put that thing, because it does have the little tiny bit that sticks down below the top of the valve cover.
And another thing that you have to watch out for when you put it in the valve cover is how close you put it to a valve spring. Put it to the rocker side or the pushrod side of the valve cover. Because if you put the pickup directly over like any of the valve springs, you can actually suck all the oil off the valve springs. And the valve springs that are right underneath where you pick up, if you take them off and check them, they'll be extremely weak compared to the rest of the springs in the engine. So you can actually suck the oil right off the valve springs, overheat your valve springs, and have reliability issue with your spring. So you got to be really careful about the placement of your pickup when you do a vacuum pump in a valve cover.
Boom.
Yeah, there are quite a few pans, or quite a few, quite a few valve covers that are made that have a little baffle up at the front end of them, because there's enough room to put a baffle in between your rocker and valve spring, like before it gets to the edge of the head. And so a bunch of them have like a baffle up there, and then you come right off the front of them. A lot of big block guys put them up there.
That's where mine are, and they have that baffle, exactly what you're saying.
It's like Rosso makes those valve covers or something.
Yeah, I would watch the valve springs. I would mark their position and check the pressures when you pull them off to do any kind of maintenance, and check and see if those valve springs closest to the pickup of the vacuum pump are, down on pressure compared to the rest. If so,
like I said, I
might need to work with a spring oiler or something to get your oil levels back proper on the valve spring.
putting in the valley is always the hardest because there are so many different intake combinations and so many different ways that you cover that area, and so it's hard to get it in there, but it's always the safest for that reason of the valve springs. Takes the same thing. You got to have baffles everywhere to protect from the oil splash that happens in there.
Another option is like the Visner, the VED valve covers for the LS engines. They have ports on the edge of the valve cover that faces the intake. And they've got like 2-8s instead of the 1-12 in the top of the valve cover. I know a couple of guys who run the vacuum pump, and they run like a little shower head deal and run 4 8s together to a single 16 to go, or a single 12 to go to the vacuum pump. So they're pulling vacuum off of all 4 corners.
What do you do differently with the rings for in a high vacuum application?
You can drop down your tension. You can drop down to a low tension, and most of the time, the oil rings and the scraper rings are gapped a little narrower to try and help with that.
Yeah, and we've been running thinner rings for a long time. Thinner has kind of caught up with us now, so we're not all that thin anymore. But this is a 4/6 bore type deal. But we've run that, and we've had good success running that Napier second. With that and the vacuum, the guys who helped me figure out the ring package tell me that that's worked out. They've had great stability running the vacuum pump, in that range with that thinner ring. So you're reducing drag. There's a whole bunch of good things that come out of that.
Right.
In addition to the ring stability.
Well, it doesn't contaminate the oil supply either. You know what I mean? You less combustion gases leaking down into the crankcase. That's a good thing.
Because it's pulling vacuum and clean air through, you're also getting rid of anything that's in there as well. So even if vapors get in there before they condense, they can get sucked out.
Yeah.
That was the biggest.
Extremely useful on alcohol.
That was the most noticeable improvement I had in my car because it's on E85. When I put a vacuum pump on it, I couldn't believe how clean the oil was every time I checked it or changed it after that.
There's one other effect. If your oil temps get up to the 180 range or so, and you're pulling that 12 inches of vacuum, you're now at the boiling point of the water in the crankcase. So water that gets into condensation, again, for engines that spend a lot of time, or for me, it's drag week, true street, and actual street miles on these things. What mostly shows up in the breather can is water with a little bit of oil.
Yep.
And that's what gets sucked out, which also helps keeping the oil better and keeping the inside of the motor happier.
Worth doing then. All right. So I think we've nailed that one down. I got a couple others we got to cover tonight yet. Any final words on crankcase vacuum before we go to the next one? I got one.
Do it.
Mr. Joseph Flynn.
Awesome.
Now, this is good. Joseph Flynn asked this one like a week ago. I wanted to get to it last week, but Eric Yost was on here just knocking him out of the park, so we just kind of let him roll. Suggestion for a topic on tomorrow's episode: when is a wastegate necessary or not necessary? When is a blow-off valve or recirculation valve necessary or not necessary? I personally have always ran blow-off valve, recirculation valve, and wastegate on all my turbo cars, minus my stockish diesel trucks, but I feel like this could be a good topic of discussion since you see different parts of the racing industry using one, both, or neither. And bonus food for thought on this discussion: when is it the right time to run a wastegate setup over a blow-off valve on a centrifugal supercharger setup? I don't know, man. It seems to me like this is a Bewley question to start with. Like,
how do I know that was going to get?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, and Joe's a smart dude, so he comes to our classes. I'm thinking about this. I'm just gonna, before you start, I'll give you a chance to think about it, warm up. I'll blab for 10 seconds. Stationary engines, some of them that run like a propane, like a big block Chevy that runs on natural gas or wellhead gas or whatever, common in the oil industry. You'll find turbocharged versions of those. They only run like 6 or 7 pounds of boost. I've seen those run without wastegates. They're just giant exhaust sides. They take forever to spool up, but that's what they do. They're steady state load, and they don't use wastegates or blow-off valves. And I've seen some boats with a similar combo like that, big block boat engines that ran a little bit of boost with a giant turbo that's not putting out a lot of heat. Not working really hard, just adding 6 or 7 or 8 PSI. I've seen those applications where guys didn't have wastegates and didn't have blow-off valves. So that's all I know about that. Just an observation of what I've seen out in the field, and your mileage may vary, but Anyway, I will turn that over to Mr. Bewley now.
Well, you know, what you've seen is you saw two situations where, you know, turbine size, the turbine was sized to control shaft speed. And especially in the steady state engines, load on those is probably pretty steady, right? Once they get to max load, there's not much variance.
Nope,
like
not at all. It's real steady. They're just running a pump,
So,
same load.
Yeah,
Yep.
the load, if the load doesn't change and they size it to make such and such amount of boost, if they know the load's never going to increase above that point, then that's fine. And they're not in a situation where, you know, they're not trying to ramp it in over a certain rate and trying to bring it in real quick. So the ramp up of how quick it gets to that 6, 7, 8, 10 pounds really doesn't matter. You know, and some of the boat stuff is the same way. You know, one of the applications, the place where I see no wastegates, no blow-off valves usually is in the diesel market and on diesel engines, because everything's controlled by fuel. The acceleration of the engine, everything's controlled by how much fuel you put in them. You know, I had back when in my former life pushing a diesel down the road, you know, I had one of my trucks had an N14 and it was non-wastegated with no blow off. And I had a Pittsburgh Power tuner box on it, and 0 was the stock setting and running off the stock tune, and it would make like 24 pounds of boost. And as you turned it up to like 6, it would make, the more fuel you put to it, the more boost it would make. There's just that much more exhaust energy, you know, fuel and mass and all that getting put in there with more fuel. So, you know, and it was one of those situations like what you said with the stationary engines. It was, the exhaust side was just sized to the point to where it would control the shaft speed and not get into a runaway situation. Now, race engines are a completely different animal. We want them in as absolutely as quick as we're possible. We want, you know, we have to control them. We have to control the shaft speed to leave the line, you know. So, you know, and it brings in the ability to adjust it. You know, without wastegates, we wouldn't be able to adjust it. The only thing we could rely on then would be engine RPM and maybe some fueling. So if it's a gas motor and it's in a non-steady state application, and we're caring about what we can do part throttle and adjustability, wastegates are pretty much a must, in my opinion. Blow-off valves, I'm a firm believer in putting blow-off valves on about everything that's got a throttle blade. I've seen too many wheels, too many turbocharger compressor wheels with the blades bent back from excessive barking and compressor surge. And it's funny, tossed it in my lap, but I literally just posted a picture of a wheel not a week ago where the tips of all the primary compressor blades were bent up from surge from the thing backwashing. I'm a real big fan of them. I think it saves parts. I think it prevents you from tearing parts up.
But it sounds so cool.
It sounds like dog shit. I hate it. My diesel does it. And
where's the grind my gears?
Yeah, where's Scott when you need it a little bit?
Yeah, he had to step out for a second.
But, you know, I don't even like it on my diesel. You know, my diesel fuels like my Cummins. If you have to watch it, because if you're partway into the throttle, there's a certain throttle percentage to where when that thing locks the converter up at 50 mile an hour, once you get into overdrive, my tune fuels across the shifts and it fuels across lockup, and that will, you know, it keeps the shaft speeds up really high and on that transition, and it will bark a turbo on lockup in a heartbeat. And you just have to learn to drive it. You have to learn to, you know, right about the time it shifts, back your foot out of it just a little bit so it doesn't want to bark and fuel across that transition. I mean, like the newer diesels with like some of the automatics, all these high horsepower diesels, these 800 to 900 diesels, like the Dodges with the 6L80s or the 68 REs and the Asian Transits. I know that in their tunes, a lot of their tunes, they're defueled on the shift. So the fuel table will actually, when it comes up and you start getting into sales right when the transmission is going to shift, it actually pulls fuel out of the motor, drops the power, drops the input, it'll shift it, and then it'll put the fuel back in to keep it from doing that, and to keep it from hurting the transmission too, right. Obviously. But I don't care for it. I don't think compressor surge sounds good. I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's great. I think it's awful.
Yep. I'll agree with you there. It's solvable, and it can be so much better.
Right.
Yeah, there's no real reason not to run a blow-off valve. They're cheap. It doesn't affect you under wide open throttle situations. Like, just put it on there and
saves parts.
Right. There's a lot of guys in the diesel market that have gone to the kits to run blow-offs, like the big compound guys that are running 70, 80 pounds of boost.
Yeah.
They bark even worse than my truck, and my truck's just a little piddly old single with a stock turbo on it.
Don't they actuate those with the exhaust back pressure?
There's like a little electronic control box and a valve, and you plumb it up some way. I'll be honest with you, I'm ignorant to how they actually work, but obviously with no throttle valve or no throttle blade on a diesel, they have to actuate it some way. They have to bring, I don't know how they do it, to be quite honest, but they tap into the TPS sensor on the throttle pedal to get the signal to activate it. But like I said, there's
a mechanical. Yeah, it's a little electrical mechanical valve that pushes, a little stepper motor, just pushes it open and closed as necessary. Yeah, really fast acting, like a solenoid.
Yeah, there's some of the electromechanical ones like that, and then there's a couple of them out there that are kits that use a traditional style vacuum open, and they tie it in somewhere where they've got some way of creating enough vacuum to pull the valve open. I don't know how it works. I've never had one, so I have zero experience and know how they operate. My stuff's like all my diesel stuff is just, no gate, no blow off, and you keep it from barking with your right foot.
So talking about wastegates, I've seen these before, like on using a wastegate, not in a turbo application, but on a centrifugal supercharged application to make it, to make a blower kind of come out a little bit sooner, give you a flatter boost curve.
And that's exactly what it's for. They're basically just, what they're doing is they're using the wastegate to bleed off excessive boost pressure. So they pulley the blower to max, and then they pick they pick whatever boost they want to run, not what the pulley setup's going to provide them. One of his questions was running a wastegate instead of a blow off. Can't run the wastegate instead of a blow off. You still need the blow off valve to actuate and do as a pressure
quick release. Yep.
Yeah, as a relief when you lift off the throttle. You still need that function, but the wastegate is just there to limit the maximum boost that is going to be seen in the intake. Two different parts serve two different purposes.
Yeah, we put a wastegate. We put a blow off. Wastegate on the Green Lizard car. I'm sure some people have seen on Street Outlaws. Yeah. Super fast, Pro Mod style car, big old supercharger on the front of it. And the problem he was having was that he would leave off the line. It was so much power and so much going that it would just go right into wheel shake. And to help with some of that control, we made it so he could launch off of less boost, but not have the loss in RPM. So he would still get the wheel speed, but he could use that to kind of control it so it wouldn't tire shake on him. It just gets out of the hole and goes now with that. Made a world of difference on his car and getting down the track and getting down the street.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are doing that now with EFI systems that are able to control it, because if you got because that brings in the ability to do boost control on a blower car just like we do on a turbo car with traction control. So they can set up the CO2 and set up the solenoids on the wastegate, and if it sees wheels slip, you can create yourself a table to open the wastegate, bleed the boost off,
right?
And then once it sees the RPM differential start closing, it can start feeding boost back into the motor. So it's just another tuning tool. It gives the blower guys the ability to tailor a boost curve to the application with a lot more accuracy and a lot more detail than
repeatability
than pulleys and RPM of the engine. Because
on the flip side of that, like for like say the quote unquote little guy that's out there that maybe he can't handle all the boosts that the his F1 is capable of producing. Say it can handle 14 pounds, but he wants that 14 pounds. He wants maybe all of it a little bit sooner. That would make, if you put a wastegate on it, pulley it to max RPM, would that not make it almost act like kind of like having a Whipple or a root style blower on the top of the car? You know what I mean?
It could, yeah. Because obviously you're going to have more boost at a lower RPM the harder you spin the blower with the pulley setup.
Yeah,
and I've seen guys do that, and it's also helped guys out that with engines that they take an engine and it doesn't turn 7,500 RPM and they only want to turn it 68, but they can pulley it up and then use it to tailor. It all comes down to tailoring the boost curve,
right,
and shaping it the way they want to shape it.
Raz Sonoma's asking if the gate would be small enough to still allow for boost to be built while it's open. So what we're talking about is the wastegate is on the intake track on a supercharger. You're just bleeding off the excess boost. Say you pulley it would make 30 pounds of boost, but you only want 10. You can use the wastegate to bleed off that 20 PSI down low or wherever you don't want it. And then you
still have the RPM for your launch.
Yeah, you use a boost controller to control that gate, and then say down the track when you can put the power down, you want all of it. Well, then you pin the gate shut using some sort of way to control your boost control solenoids, and you have all the boost from the blower. And that's for that. He's asking if that was for turbo stuff. We were talking about superchargers there. So when you put the gate on the intake track, we're talking about with a blower. Some guys
on the turbos, it's designed so you can control how much boost the turbo makes because it's controlling the exhaust pressure going into the turbo. Versus a supercharger where you're controlling the actual airflow going into the engine.
Yeah, and Neil Richards was saying talking about there are some turbo guys that have and probably still do use wastegates on the cold side to kind of let the turbo in order to aid spooling, get the shaft speed up, and then slam it shut once when they want to launch the thing. I personally don't have any experience with that. I've seen that done quite a few times. I don't know how a lot of people do that now, or if people still do that. I think technology's kind of caught up quite a bit. I think we talked about that on a previous show. John, you had something on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I was spacing out looking at something else there for a second.
He's downloading porno.
No, not hardly. Freaking message went off for work. Say that again, Ray.
Wastegates on the intake side on a turbo car to get the shaft speed up on the launch.
Spool valves, aka spool valve. Back
no, some of the guys would just do it to reduce boost and let shaft speeds climb.
Yeah,
and some guy, that's back when the turbo technology was kind of antiquated, in my opinion. When you had these big dinosaur sized turbochargers with extremely heavy rotating assemblies and things like that, and to get the shaft speeds up, they would have to do that. But nowadays, with engine technology and camshaft advancements, and the more you understand how to get it to do that, I've not been at this very long, but I've never run into a combo where I felt the need to have to put something on there.
Haven't needed it yet, huh? Interesting. Yeah,
haven't needed it yet.
Yeah, this is stuff I haven't tuned much, if any, of.
I know, like I've seen some guys with you go back and you look at some of the stuff that was running in the 70s and the 80s, and they do that, and it was literally just to reduce. Like they would bring the thing up and it would make 20 pounds, and then they would open the wastegate on the cold side and drop the pressure in the intake track to 10, and that would allow the shaft speed of the turbocharger to climb higher because it needed, it was trying to make commanded boost. But I mean, that's back in the days where all the controls and stuff were mechanical, and we didn't have cool EFI systems to control, do anti-lag and all kinds of stuff. I can honestly say I've never been in a situation where on a turbo car I needed a wastegate on the cold side to vent pressure to get shaft speeds up. So in order to improve response once you let go of the button.
We interrupt this broadcast. I noticed that Geraldo Bueno, my buddy from Brazil, who tunes the fuel-injected nitromethane cars, he was sharing and liking our video. I'm going to try and get him on. His English it'll be tough. I'll see what I can do. It might be better to message with him, but I will try to get Geraldo on here to talk about nitromethane tuning. Good to see you listening in there, Geraldo. Good dude, man. One of my favorite tuners. He's like the Steve Petty of Brazil. Just very prolific. We'll just
take
tuner.
It slow with him and see what we can translate.
We'll try it out. Yeah, no, he does good. He does good. It was funny that we spoke when he first started coming up to Proline when we were working on Fuel Tech. He spoke very little English. He just didn't say much. Good dude. But it was so funny. I couldn't figure out the Excel enrichment configuration, how that worked on Fuel Tech at the time. And he comes up and I couldn't communicate with him in English. He knew I was having trouble with it. And he's like, "Here, let me show you." He keys in a couple things, a couple of hand signals, boom, it's perfectly crisp, and I got it. It was just funny. That was our way of communicating. But he's since gotten a lot better at English. But good dude, he's just world-class tuner. Tunes a ton of stuff, but he has done a lot of nitromethane with electronic fuel injection. That is something we need to talk about in the next couple of weeks. So we've got somebody lined up for this coming week to talk about clutches for that crowd. So
the king is.
I'll just tell you, Cale Aronson told me today that he would get on the call next Wednesday, and that's.
I'm so stoked for next week's episode.
Me too, man. I feel like we're kind of important now.
Cale Aronson is the king of clutches. The man, dude's awesome with them.
Good. I read a lot about him, and I watch him on Facebook and the Black Magic Clutches people, and he's committed. Let's just say tentatively, but it sounds like he's. I'm
going to say this. I don't know if we need to have Cale on or we need to have Tenzi on.
Yeah,
because I don't know who the real genius in that clutch power couple is.
I'm not sure either, but I usually see she's the one that seems to be getting dirtier than him. That's at the track. When I've seen her at the track, she was always the she looked like Robert River. I was like, oh, I can tell who the clutch person is on that car. Hard to miss him.
I think we might need to have them both on. I
told him to get like a speakerphone or something so we could maybe get everybody on here. But anyway, I just think really look forward to it.
I think Tenzi's the one.
We'll find out they're just turning wrenches and somebody else.
He let me know he's got a degree in communications too. So he was all over like having a quality mic set up and everything. He has a degree in communications. I just thought that was kind of funny. He's like, no, that's what he's like. I have no problem getting on a talk. And I'm like, cool. Cause I asked him, I felt kind of shy and stupid asking today. Cause like the guys from RJ, I emailed them and I haven't heard nothing back. And I was like, we have a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to get on? It's like, well, I bought your book and whatnot. And by the way, that book is good for beginners. For basic, the first dozen pages are awesome for a beginner. I'm 20 pages into it. But the RJ Race Cars Chassis Tuning Guide. Anyway, just kind of babbling off topic here. But yeah, so next week, clutches with the Black Magic Clutches people. Should be really cool. They're like an hour and a half from me where I live. Just they're on the other side of Missouri and the Iowa state line from where I'm at. So I told them one of these days I'm going to go visit them because I don't frequently they're out in Chillicothe, I think. Is that where it is? They're like, that's middle of nowhere, Missouri, but really pretty country though. No. And it's
I know that town.
Yeah. Do you really? Okay. Small town. It's what was it? It's like east of St. Joe, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so one of these days we're going to go visit them. They invited me down there. I said, go check out their shop. They move a lot of clutches.
I'm trying to get Jared Kokenauer in his attempt to be the fastest 6-speed Corvette. I'm trying to get him to
come on at the same time. Get him on Discord.
I've been harassing him to get in touch with Cale and Tenzi about doing the clutch in his Corvette.
He's going to need that kind of stuff pretty soon because they're at that level. The pro stock, they do IHRA mountain motor stuff, NHRA 500-inch pro stock clutches, so they want to know all kinds of stuff from your data log system. Like, all right, what RPM are we leaving at? So they can set base pressure. And then, the counterweights, what RPM are we going to run to? How do you want the behavior for slippage? And, how much power do you, they need that's interesting at their level, how clutches work. And it's, over my head, but, that's going to be a neat one next week. So
yeah, it'll be a good one.
Yeah. So What? Let's see. Was that it? Ryan, any other good questions out there?
I'm cruising through, trying to see a couple. Nothing I'm seeing right now. Everybody's kind of.
A lot of guys are asking about. Okay, I've got a couple. I think it's the same guy in all three places asking about running dual fuel 16 injector setup on the car I'm building now. Any advice? Haven't bought an ECU yet, but planning on standalone.
Holly Dominator.
Dominator is a good one. Yeah, you know, I mean the Megasquirt guys, there's okay there, but it's they have a neat staging thing.
The V4 brought in the ability to shut the primaries down 100%.
Sure. Yeah.
So to me, you know, I've worked with a couple of cars that are dual fuel.
Yep.
And a truck that.
Yeah.
And then Shane, can't think of Shane's last name.
McClellan.
Shane Austin out in OKC. He's got that black steps, the black square body Chevy truck.
Yeah.
The big block that Travis Quillen built for him.
Yep.
And that truck is dual fuel, 24 injector, runs on gas up to a certain point, and then it switches completely over to 16 M1 injectors, non-intercooled.
Yep.
So, in my opinion, Holly makes true dual fuel system functionality work the easiest. Get a hold of Bisher.
Yeah.
Talk to Chris.
Yeah. Get one
of his pump clutch setups. Because that is like the coolest thing next.
Yeah, and it's real reliable too. He's got a compressor. He's got a clutch that turns on and off his mechanical fuel pump at a certain boost level or throttle position or whatever he's triggering it with off of his Holly. Just activates a switch, boom, kicks on. It's putting fuel pressure into the alcohol system, and then a half second later, you know, he's running on methanol. And
Mad Max.
No, awesome. Exactly, but it works good. I've seen it with my own eyes, man. It totally works.
It's an electromagnetic clutch system.
Yeah,
and it works awesome. It works
backwards
awesome.
Engineered AC system.
That's what it is. Basically. But it works really good. He's a good engineer.
Yeah, they work great.
Yeah, he would you to think that they're like nothing but backwoods hillbillies up in Indiana, but they're not stupid. So, yeah.
Backwoods hillbillies come up with some of the most dangerous and coolest inventions.
Yep. Well, I mean, Chris works at Lingenfelder, and they have access to some neat test equipment, and he's got a pair of chassis dynos up there they get to run on, which, you know, DynoJet for one, Mustang for the other. It's interesting, neat facility. I've been up there a number of times, but
it's not all potato guns and pit bulls, y'all.
Nope.
And sometimes you got to brew the shine too.
All right. So what else, Rye?
I'm cruising through here on the comments, trying to find something here.
Somebody asked plenum volume, how to measure for cubic inches for best volume and airspeed for power.
The base rule of thumb,
ram style intake,
minimum 1.5 times the displacement. 2x the displacement and plenum volume isn't going to kill you. That's just my that's a horrible rule of thumbs. I usually hate them, but you're not going to go too wrong if you're
a good start.
1 3/4. Well, yeah, I mean, really, to put it on an engine dyno to find what's super happiest, but more often than not, you hurt it by going on the small side, erring on the small side than on the big side. One of the downsides is drivability. The bigger your plenum volume, the less effect your throttle has. When you open the throttle, it takes longer for that pressure wave to get across that bigger plenum. So you end up with what might seem like more sluggish throttle response a little bit, but most racers aren't caring about that too much. Road racers, different story. There might be a reason to trim down your plenum volume.
It's all application specific.
Drag car. Say it with me now.
Yeah, it's street car. I don't run what I would run in a turbo, in a drag race application turbo car.
Sure. Cool.
100% on a street car safe though. 100 to 125% of displacement. You usually don't get too much numbness in the response at those levels. 150 to 200, you can start to feel it a little bit.
Cool. Well, we're getting that was our question from YouTube. I think it's one of the first real ones we've taken from YouTube. We got a steady number of subscribers, small amount on YouTube, but the guys tell me with the smart TVs in the shop are all happy about it being on a YouTube stream. That's the compliments I've been getting there from those guys. They're like, yeah, we got a smart TV in the shop, or we got a Code E-Box or a Raspberry Pi or whatever, and you can stream it on YouTube that way easily. Man, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of TVs that do YouTube now.
Yeah. Very cool. So we'll keep that going.
does the plenum volume theory, does that apply to boosted applications as well?
I believe it does. Yes.
That's where that's my opinion on it. I was speaking concerning turbo cars.
Yeah. Me both.
I don't necessarily know how even an NA, how you'd go about even trying to do that with an NA thing. I've seen some of the intake manifolds and stuff that come out of BES, like on Collis's Mustang.
Yeah.
Where the thing is absolutely huge, and it's got to have, I know it's got runners extended into that bread box, but I've got no clue. But that's a big honking ass motor too.
He told me the other day they're actually going backwards on that. They're going to actually shrink it back down a little bit because they've done some testing.
It's too much.
Yeah, or I don't know what I could ask him. His logic. Mostly they were interested in playing with all the different runner lengths, and he said that it just shifted things around a lot less than they thought it would, and that it now for aero concerns or other stuff they're going to try and shorten things up.
Yeah, I don't know how that can affect on the NA stuff when you're dealing with just atmospheric pressure. And that one atmosphere on that, I can honestly see how the gains or, any kind of differences between making a change is going to be way, way less than what we see on the boosted stuff because, we're taking that air density to 2, 3, and 4 times atmospheric. And I think when you do that, when you increase that density to that kind of a factor, that it definitely affects what you do. It exacerbates that difference that you see by making a smaller change.
Gotcha. Jeb Simmons wants to know 6 psi boost on methanol, non-intercooled. What is a safe air fuel target? And should he start pulling timing at only 6 pounds?
That's a good question.
Pulling timing at 6 pounds. You really conservative.
Don't need to.
Yeah.
You're not going to pull much, Jeb. You're going to pull like 2 degrees to be safe to start with or something.
I'm used to tuning it on the gas scale. And so if you're at
Jeb's running a Coyote
12.5 to 1 gas scale, you're fine on methanol at 6 psi. I mean, it doesn't need to be super rich just yet. Now, if you're running, 20, 30 pounds, it wants to be way richer. It loves fuel when you start getting up there. But 6 psi, you're not even doing anything. It doesn't care.
Is the motor wet or dry?
It does not say.
If the motor's wet,
it's a wet motor.
4.5.
Yep. No, I know.
4.2 to 4.5, and then ramp down from there.
Air fuel ratio?
Continues. Well, alcohol. That's on an alcohol.
Yeah. See, to me, that seems pretty rich. We were running Larson's truck at 4.2 at like 35 pounds of boost, and then we would dip it down below 4.0 at like 50 pounds of boost.
Well, see, I'm used to a lot of alcohol motors being 3.6, 3.7.
That's fine. So here's the thing: you can make
4.3 to 4.5 on a wet motor. Yeah, well, it just depends on if it's wet or if it's dry.
Yeah, sure.
And temperatures, this, that, and the other.
And he's talking about the cooling system. If it's got a wet deck and a full cooling system, which I believe Jeb's does, I think it's a swap Coyote and a Fox chassis that he's just going to start. And he's been running on methanol already, so he's got the methanol tune figured out. And it's lean and crisp, and it works good for him that way. I know that. But what John is saying is, most of us are familiar with methanol engines that don't have cooling systems, either severely neutered cooling systems or basically nothing at all. In which case, you run them super rich, and you basically lose no power over. You can run them. There's a huge range of fuel you can run through a methanol motor, and you're just using the excess fuel to take out heat. That's pretty typical,
right?
And even blower pro mod guys will use too much fuel to reduce power to manage power getting down the track. That's like the Billy Stockman trick.
At like 6 pounds of boost, I wouldn't feel bad about being at about a 5.4.
Right? Yeah,
that wouldn't bother me a bit.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm used
for the
stuff.
application.
I don't know.
I was just trying to cover for you because I know where you're coming from, Billy. You're coming from the Alki blower pro mod era. Where it's been used forever.
I'm not. Yeah, I mess around with a bunch of dry stuff. The wet stuff's not necessarily. I'm conservative too. I am a fat alcohol guy. If it's on alcohol, it gets run fat. Yeah.
Now, David and Tina Pierce, they had their truck, that Colorado, on methanol and 16 injectors, and we had it running basically just stoic, driving around the pits, and they were amazed at how the thing started and idled like a brand new minivan on gasoline. Yeah. It was funny. Yeah. So but when we got in boost, we got it down to the low 4s as well.
If you're thinking Lambda, you can think 0.7 on the rich side, 0.65. I mean, it can get way, way down there when you're really, really laying into it, and it loves it when you do that.
Wet motors just, they work a little, it's just one of those things, man. Dry motors, they really like being fat with plenty of timing. And I like all alcohol tune-ups that way, because there's two
dry motors are looking for the extra cooling from it too.
Right, true. But also that same thought process with a wet motor, you only back the air fuel off a little bit, but you're still running it, fat and sassy, fat with a lot of timing. And then there's that whole other end of the spectrum where guys like to run alcohol leaner with not quite as much time. And in that scale of things, my tune-ups on alcohol and what I like to see on alcohol is to the fatter end of the scale with more timing, because I wouldn't start pulling timing on an alcohol motor till 15 pounds. If I was doing, something like this and I had it, 4 or 5,
say maybe 12 pounds somewhere in there usually.
Yeah. 12 to 15 pounds. I won't even look to start ramping the timing out till it gets to damn near 1 full atmosphere boost.
Yeah, alcohol is really, really tolerant at low boost levels.
Yeah.
As you start getting up higher is when it starts getting tricky, and that's when you just got to start pouring it on fat. Because it wants to be, when you get up to 25, 30 pounds of boost, it wants to be fat. That's the way to save your parts.
Yep. That's, you're getting down into the 4s, air fuel ratio. But neato. Yeah. So, what else? Other questions, anyone? We're going to wind it down here a little bit.
Questions, but I forgot that I wanted to talk about this. So, you guys have heard of the Dirty South No Prep series, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, Did you hear what happened at Hub City Dragway this past weekend?
It got vandalized.
Yeah. That wasn't a joke. I saw that, and I'm like, they weren't kidding.
It was not a joke.
Somebody in the middle of the night, they let all the racers on there to camp out and, you party it up all night. Somebody in the middle of the night got the bright idea to go out and spray the entire track with prep. They stole a hand sprayer, sprayed it by hand.
Like a whole lane.
That's the way to do it quietly.
All the way down.
They did both lanes for like 200 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have literally, and now this is how serious they are about this. They have literally offered a reward for information about who did it.
Yeah, $2,000.
A $2,000 reward for the quote unquote vandalism of spraying prep on the track.
So they're dead serious.
They're dead serious about it. They're dead serious. They went out and de-prepped the track and burned it off. And they're serious about their no prep.
Didn't the guys who do that steal the traction spray from the track as well?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. So yeah.
And that shit's not cheap.
Nope. Not at all.
It was a 55, so that reward sort of looks like what it cost to buy that 55 at track prep. I think it's actually more than that.
Probably so.
I don't know. I saw that and I kind of had to chuckle. Like, how much of an advantage are you trying to get? But
how many of you guys have been to that track?
To Hub City?
Yeah, Hub City.
Not me.
I have not.
Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's special,
Did you guys go there for drag week once?
Track.
Or where? No, we didn't go there for drag week. When I was working down in Mississippi and Louisiana after Katrina, we went up there a couple times and hung out. It was fun, but it reminds me of some of those other little kind of funky tracks you get to in other parts of the world.
Oh, character. Let's just call it character.
Yeah, that single metal rail sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's
all that good stuff.
Southeast 8th mile track. They're everywhere like that.
Oh yeah. Cool. What else? Rye, anybody else got questions? We'll wind it down whenever. We can go another 10, 11 minutes if we need to. Dun, dun, dun. Make me spin up some tunes, do the DJ thing.
Yeah, you got some gospel music to play or what?
No.
Here's one. What EGTs are you expecting when running methanol on a drag car?
They're going to get a lecture.
3.
They're going to, you can't, none of us can tell
per
you.
engine.
Yeah, none of us can tell you because mainly it depends on how deep your probes are mounted in the exhaust stream. you know, and that they're mounted
how about
consistently.
1 to 2 inches from the ports?
Yeah, whatever distance.
Still not going to matter what else is going on with the engine.
Could be
everything is a variable.
A 500 or 800 degree range for what we could tell you. You can't tell you. Really, what you're looking for is to make them consistent with each other. And remember that timing can be as much or more of a factor on the EGTs when you're matching per cylinder as the fuel. So don't just go doing fuel only to get all the EGTs in balance. There's more to it than that. Timing is a big factor. Read your plugs.
Then which NOx sensor do you run with those fuels?
The one that measures crankcase pressure. Let's see, coolant pressure. There's about 100 ways to check for NOx. Better than trying to put on a third-party NOx sensor on a race package.
Plugged into a pair of headphones on your head.
That might actually be better than some of the automated ones, but I mean, unless you're doing some serious
they need to set a GoPro up watching the tailpipes. They'd get more information.
The puff on the exhaust pipe is one of the best giveaways. Yep.
If they would do that instead of trying to listen to a set of headphones, they'd probably
the problem with
be better off.
It's all experience related, right? There's guys that like their NOx sensors that have I guess there's some classes, not in this country, that you're forced to race on pump quality gasoline. And it's okay, wow, that just seems dumb to me. Okay, we're racing on the wrong gas. It's kind of like, that's worse than chump car. But I don't generally what the guys on this podcast work on. If you're rattling something hard enough to see it, hear it, and have aftermarket stuff pick up on it, you're already taking the motor apart, you know? So, I mean, it's not good. We always tell people just run way better gas than you think you need. Start off on C16 if you're a gasoline guy, or nice and rich if you're on methanol, you know? And that's what I tell people to do, and just stay the hell away from it. Don't run a fuel type where you know you're going to become detonation limited. We've lectured that before. Anyway, what else?
Good thing to remind people about. If you're looking for a topic, I'll just throw something in. I happen to be looking at the new Hot Rod magazine that I don't know why it is, but I always get it last after everybody else. But it's got all the Drag Week stuff on the cover.
Episode, yeah.
And the interesting thing that struck me as I'm looking at the magazine, because of the way they lay out the format, is every single class was in the single digits this year, except the NA gasser class, and that poor guy only went 1030s.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you think about the fact that only one class went single digits
the first
in
year.
The original one.
Outstanding. Yeah, so that's really cool. And I was going to say, I remember when Small Block Power Editor went with a 1008 average or 1021 average at the first year. That's pretty hilarious. What did fucking Dan Seitz went deep sevens on basically that same class, but that class has morphed into, you know, with a small block Ford Mustang, that orange car, that's a gorgeous car that he has. But anyway, the high performance guys, very impressive how things have kind of grown on Drag Week and improved.
That's because turbochargers are badass.
They're the easy button.
Don't start with me.
Just add water.
Don't just add boost.
Yeah.
Nobody said you had to win the hard way.
Exactly. You don't get bonus points for doing it the hard way.
I guess.
No, there's no guessing about it.
Yeah, but there's the dying art of building a naturally aspirated combo now.
Doc's keeping that alive.
Yeah, he is. And so is Bill, actually. Bill's another one of the big block naturally aspirated class guys. But
I have to tell you that Doc has sort of, moved the bar up.
Now it's a pole vault competition, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like having the East Germans, show up at the Olympics, with women that look like gorillas,
right. Right. Oh my God. Here comes our legal letter. But yeah, that's, no, it's funny you say that, but yeah, you're right, Doc. And Todd Goodwin was on an episode. I don't know if you caught that or not, Bill, an earlier episode a couple months ago after Drag Week, but he talked a lot about that combo. Those guys have definitely, when Doc retires, that record's probably going to sit up there for a long time. And I don't think anybody's ever, he's the first into the sevens. so I don't see an all motor streetable car going sixes. It's probably battery cars doing that next. But anyway, that's when they retire, that will be a record I think sits for a long time. James McIntyre.
There's a rumor there's going to be an electric car class for 18.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be actually kind of cool. Some of those EDRA guys are really fast.
Oh, and speaking of doing it the hardware, the easy way, the subhead on the cover is Nitrous Wins Drag Week. Oh, by the way, for the first time since 2006, wow. When a certain purple you know what?
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool though that despite how far drag week has progressed, I still think there's still a lot of stuff, you know, like you could flip through, like you said, that NA Gasser guy, he ran 1030s. Like there's probably some room for somebody to look at that and go, I think I could do that and crush that number. So somebody somewhere is.
It's always easier looking than it is. Yeah, I tell them to come out.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, you know, the guys who go to Bonneville and they just flip through the book and like, oh, I think I can take that. Let's do something with that.
And then 11 years later, they finally get it done after spending $1 million. But yeah.
In the meantime, some guy with a 240Z and a
turbo flathead.
EFI,
yeah,
a flathead killed it.
Exactly. I think there were rules against that one now in that class, but still.
Yeah, Scott, they killed my dreams on that NA Gasser class because I thought I had the deal done because I finally talked Freiberger into allowing the 385 motors in.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd found this really cool 56 Corvette, or 50, God almighty, I almost said the word Corvette, Thunderbird.
Right.
That I was going to build a gasser on. And then they changed the rule to say no roadsters or convertibles. And it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Can we get a hard top? Can we get a hard top for it?
I'm investigating that as we speak.
I mean, they made a hard top for that car.
Interesting.
Put a cage in it, put a hard top on it.
That was the idea. Have a real car, you know, VIN number, blah blah blah, you know, and it ought to run. I don't know, 9 flat.
Oh yeah. In gasser mode, that actually would be a pretty cool car to have either way.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Thunderbird, cool. All right, what else, guys? Let's wrap it up. Got a couple more minutes before we tell everybody goodbye. All you guys working on your cars in the shop, it's getting late. Kids better be in bed.
Yeah, I'm with Scott Evans on this. You need an NTK if you're going to try and get down into the 3.5 or 4 range.
Oh yeah, you need alcohol specific wideband controls too. Yep. But then sensors as well. Ballinger's is a nice one for doing alcohol for standalone widebands. Ballinger's is badass. I like that one a lot. That's the old NGK Power Decks, but they've updated it. They've actually improved some stuff, but ECM designed, good stuff. I like that one for alcohol. Oh, I know what we got to do. I want to do a shout out to my buddy Simon Azepi. I'm working with him on the Australian jet sprint boats or whatever. So this guy, we talked about those a couple of weeks ago, right after we tuned those, and they were on my Facebook page. He had 2 boats that did really well at this race they had, and we're working on some more here too right now. He was out riding out in Australia, out in the outback, I'm guessing somewhere. He was way out in the middle of nowhere on his dirt bike, and he got off of it kind of incorrectly and basically shattered his leg below the knee and was laying there totally immobile. And I guess he had to set off one of those EPIRB devices that he had with him, that beeps to the satellite to say there's an emergency or whatever, and they had to fly him out on a helicopter because his leg was so jacked up. Oh yeah, and so he had to have surgery, and he was
That's
in
an
surgery.
Ride.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear from him because he went to surgery and was in the hospital for a couple of days, and he was in the hospital listening to our last podcast last week, and then he got home like the next day, and I saw him posting that he's like just watching TV, bored out of his nut now, healing. But anyway, we'll talk to him some more here in the upcoming. But I just wanted to say, get better, man. And that sucks. Simon is one of my repeat remote customers. I do a lot of remote tuning with him. Kind of a business partner, really. He builds a lot of combos and then has me log in, configure stuff really quick, just to get it done quick. And then we'll, take his boats to the races or whatever, and do a couple of test hits, look at some logs, and then I stick around online and look at data coming off after the races. It's pretty cool stuff. He's got me into the world of jet sprint boats in Australia. Neat shit. So get better, dude.
Crazy, yes.
Oh, those boats are so awesome. They're cool.
Crazy.
Facebook Simon just said, "Hey, buddy, cheers for the shout out."
Nice, cool. He's listening right now. Kick ass. Good dude.
Yeah, heal up, buddy.
Yeah, get better. And so check out Simon Iseppi, Iseppi. Check out his Facebook page. He's got pictures. They took pictures of him when they picked him up with the helicopter, and he's laying there on the ground beside his bike, his legs all jacked up. He's like, "Hey, mate, thumbs up." Oh, man. Hilarious guys. I love working with the Aussie guys. They're hilarious. But anywho, all right. So, well, that's probably good enough. Discord, guys, you stay on. We'll hang out and we'll bullshit for the after hours little thing we have. But I will bring us out. Let me see. Don't have any dates scheduled yet for RealTuners classes in person, but go check out RealTuners.com. We have webinars in our store. You can purchase streaming access to our webinars, which are kind of instructional stuff for standalone EFI. We're getting good feedback on those. But if you keep watching here, like us on Facebook, the RealTuners LLC, or join the RealTuners podcast fan club page. There's I'll post in there events when we start having scheduled dates. We're looking at classes in January for Houston and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So you Texas guys, get them taken care of. Then another one probably February-ish, mid-February, we're thinking back in Florida, Central Florida. So take a kind of gander at our website, realtuners.com. And whatever you need to do, you can do donations there if you want to RealTuners Radio to help us keep going. We always appreciate those. You can click on the little PayPal button under RealTuners Radio. That's about all I have for tonight, man. It's December 6th, PRI time. Everybody have a good time at PRI, and whatever else you're doing, have a good winter, and we will talk to you in 7 days. Everybody take care.